Obviously, there were reports that came out yesterday, not reports, speculations, I would say, that came out yesterday that the Pittsburgh Steelers could add some pretty big names to a trade for Brandon Ayuk. But in the same thought, in the same process there, one report from Jason La Canfora, which I have been told isn't as crazy as it sounds, which is, I'm taking that with a grain of salt. I'm not sitting around saying this is going to happen. I am not a firm believer that it is going to happen, but I was told don't brush it off as easy as you want to brush it off. Resist the urge, as I was told. Quote, the Steelers are going to get another wide receiver, whether it's Brandon Ayuk, whether it's Davante Adams scenario down the road, whether it's something else. I know they've budgeted in a way that they feel like they can execute one more big swing there. Davante Adams' name getting tossed out there sounds nuts when you put it on paper. There's no shot that the Vegas Raiders are looking to get rid of him. I've talked to people in Vegas who said that they don't even have thoughts of getting rid of Davante Adams, but you just can never say never. This comes out, you're thinking, yeah, okay, buddy, what are we even talking about? Why would we put that name out there? There's no way that Davante Adams is going to end up a Pittsburgh Steeler. We've already had that conversation. Then yesterday I'm told, look at man, just don't brush it off as easy as you want to brush it off. So I'll look at it and say this. I still think that there is a very, very, very slim chance that Davante Adams ends up in Pittsburgh. Very slim. Would it be awesome? Oh, it'd be unreal. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields with George Pickens and Davante Adams. It is the best case scenario for Pittsburgh. Maybe not financially, but it makes a lot of sense. You get a superstar who has done this for a long time, who has played on the biggest stages, who has worked with the best quarterback, who has matured and who is one of the most mature players in the NFL, guiding George Pickens and Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. That's massive in itself. To have that leadership in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room at a position that desperately needs leadership, yeah, it's pretty big. It's very, very big. On the financial sides of things, he's $22 million this year. That's his cap hit. But next year, you got to get rid of him. You're taking on $15 million in dead space. And if you don't get rid of him, for the next 2 years after that, you're taking on a $44 million cap hit, which is the craziest thing I have ever heard of in my entire life. I don't know how the Las Vegas Raiders made that happen or who was thinking what in the terms of we'll just backload this to the point where we literally can't get out of it without a massive hit. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Can the Steelers give up $15 million in dead space next year and be okay? Probably, and they could most likely make that work, but they're also back to square one where they don't have another wide receiver, where they're looking at George Pickens and maybe another rookie being their wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. It doesn't solve anything long term, and yes, it puts them in a position right now where if you go get Davante Adams, you are immediately a Super Bowl contender. There's no questions about it. He is on the same level, if not higher, than a Brandon Ayuk, where you could get this guy and you are instantly a team that's going to compete and is scary within the AFC. But I don't think it makes as much sense long-term as other options. And to take on the hit that you're going to take on next year, you really either, one, have to have a massive long-term plan in place that you feel very confident in, and there is no wiggle room there. Or two, you're really willing to go all in this year and then see what happens next year, which is great outside of the fact that your quarterback is a guy that you're still taking a shot on. It's not somebody that you've developed trust with, which is concerning. And on top of that, what if you swing and miss because of a name like Patrick Mahomes or a name like Lamar Jackson or a name like Joe Burrow, where it's just, well, yeah, we did really well, but you couldn't overcome those guys. And maybe next year you could. I don't know if that makes as much sense as a trade and a sign for Brandon Ayuk. I don't know if it makes as much sense for a trade and a sign for Cortland Sutton. I do know Davante Adams' name is massive, and it would be a phenomenal addition to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I just don't know if the Steelers are looking at this in a way that is responsible if they are actually considering him. And at the same time, do I think that they are actually considering him? If you told me this and I didn't have conversations that said, don't brush it off as easy as you want to brush it off, I would say you're crazy, because my initial thought when this came out was, okay, that's crazy. But I digress. And we sit here today, and I was told, don't brush it off as easy as you want to brush it off. Now, do I think it's going to happen? No. Does it make sense? No. But I think Brandon Ayuk does.